Welcome back, everybody. Game 2 is upon us of this Sengoku versus Detonation FocusMe series. And gentlemen, when we were talking on the desk with Initialize and Nightmare and our lovely producer, Mr. Chris Edgeworth, by the way, who made this whole graphic package alongside us, for us. Look at how good we look. Look at this flag. It's a flag. It's not an actual flag, ladies and gentlemen. It just looks like a real one. Look at that. Shout out to Mr. Chris Edgeworth. Go give him a follow. And if you need any graphical production stuff, go hit him up. I know you'll love this little shout out.
Real Gentlemen, Fake Flags Emporium.
Oh, Fake Flags Emporium. I love it. I love it. You can have your flag here too. Maybe we'll do a flag for DFM or Sengoku Gaming, depending on the winner of this one. We don't know. Who knows? I'm coming up with ideas on the fly. But gentlemen, I want to come to you guys with a question, pivoting it over to you, with the domination that Detonation FocusMe got when they got the ball rolling in their way, how they wanted to go. That gold lead went almost minute to minute, 1k over to DFM every single minute, it felt like, at least 500 gold. When you start getting to that point, I'm going to come over to you, Dodge, first for this. What is Sengoku going to do to adjust for this?
Wow, that's not a loaded question whatsoever.
Oh no!
So you gotta, in my opinion, you gotta blow it up and build back up from the bottom. You tried drafting for comfort, it didn't work. Maybe try realigning now that you are on blue side around drafting for meta. Don't give away Hecarim Karma, perhaps. Maybe try and secure yourself some more scaling. I'm not gonna lie, Swan, I'm grasping at straws here. It was so dominant from DFM in game 1 that the immediate solution sort of skips my mind. There's 5 or 6 solutions you're gonna have to apply all at the same time here if you want to make this a more competitive game.
Bro, your turn.
Oh, man. All right, so there's like maybe a 20% chance for this comeback angle. I mean, the 3-0 was definitely looking like the most likely option here.
So you're feeling very confident right now,
right? So I'm still in that. I mean, I may be wearing the red and black tonight, get that Sengoku colors going, but it's actually a Veil of Bias shirt, and so they're on Hopium and Copium to try and get something going. Unfortunately, there is no retribution in their future as the song goes. It's going to be really difficult for them because Jet did have some cute little shining parts on the Ari. I would love to see that roll back. Honestly, you can run back Honey on the Aphelios. Itty, get off Nautilus. I did not like how they were playing it. It was just very behind. Keeping that Karma and Heck away, just like Dodge had said, definitely going to be a big condition here. But you're looking towards the top and the bot lane to trying to shore up any sort of differences. Paz on Graves got absolutely bodied, as we saw. The man literally got chopped up and put in the dumpster. It was just a whole hit and run. So definitely look up to shore up those loose ends in the top lane and get something better for Inti in the bot lane.
I want to bring up, if possible, Mr. Edgeworth, can I have the pick and ban phrase from game number 1? Because I'm just interested in thinking about something here, and I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Thank you, sir! Looking at Sengoku's bans there, they just look like meta ban of Caitlyn, who is the 100% presence rate in LCK, one of the best AD carry in a lot of people's opinions, very good at facilitating in a lot of different drafts, also goes very well with Karma, which made it through this draft for DFM. I'm almost wondering, gentlemen, I think there's too many things for the side of Sengoku to kind of shore up. I agree with you. But gentlemen, we're being told that casters on the official stream are going, so we're going to cut it over to Nightmare and Initialize, who are going to kind of give their perspective. I'm expecting DFM to run over this one. Now, I might be thinking my 3-1 might be a little bit incorrect. But let's see if Nightmare is going to have a change of fate like me, or if he's going to remain true.
Now, let's just say DFM have still had a history of occasionally having a fun game. They will have games, they'll have a week where they will have ridiculous performances, stomp everything, and then the next game they'll play a comp which needs to play through side lanes and then randomly decide to front to back and lose with it. That has occasionally happened. Question is, how seriously are they, well, not how seriously, but how kind of put into the driver's seat are they right now? How confident are they feeling? And are they still on the right page? So this has happened a few times before. DFM have stopped the first game in a Juggernaut match.
Yes.
And then they do things like draft Karthus and then blow every ultimate getting a pick onto a support and realize they don't have the ability to fight the Baron straight afterwards and then lose the 4v5 because they have no spells available. This has happened to them before. Whether or not it'll happen here, I think it's probably pretty unlikely, as that is a misfortune rotation very early on alongside the Hecarim. Take it away, because we were talking narrative, and that surprised me.
So, if Karma is gone, and Karma's queen of bot lane priority, you want an AD carry that can start fighting towards that length, if you're not going to have that Karma. If you're trying to play this towards the same game pattern. Youthpon has always been an insane misfortune, and if you're playing around a team comp which wants to defending against dive and a bullet time is actually really hard to do. If Hecarim's going in with a bullet time flying over the top, if Youthpon's positioning well, that's already a pretty good two-man duo. I can understand DFM locking this in early and saying, what have you got that can contest early lane versus a misfortune that isn't as much? I wonder if they do have to go towards something like an Ezreal, because you do not want to play Xayah into misfortune. That's not a matchup you can play. It is an awful matchup for Xayah. So what other priority AD carries do you have? I mean, I don't think you want to play Jinx. I don't think you want to play Fellos. I don't think you want to play Xayah. I think all of them have a rough time versus the misfortune. I think you got to start looking a little bit outside the box. But Honey, he has his accepted champions. I wonder if this is going to be Youthpon just understanding the matchup into Honey.
Yeah, honestly, this is something that I think we'll bring up in game a little bit when we're there a bit more. But Honey is now 4 losses on the trot to Youthpon. And every single game this split, he has lost lane pretty damn hard. There was a 16-kill Jinx game for Youthpon, for crying out loud. There was a Zeri game where they were diving between tier 2 turrets, where Youthpon just ran over the game. We saw the Ezreal last time around. It's been pretty damn phenomenal. In fact, in that game where he got that crazy number of kills on the Jinx, he got 838 DPM.
That's ridiculous.
So this guy has just seemingly had a bit of an edge over Honey, who's been right up there as the best damn AD carry potentially in the whole damn region. So, all right, ball's in your court. You've been thrown a bit of a curveball. What does your champion pool have to answer this?
Well, your ball court has also been constrained by a giant baby cage, because Veigar's been locked in for Yaharong. This is something that was banned away in the second round by Sengoku in game 1. This is something that they identified as a problem. And now you're playing around an Ahri that wants to play aggressively into that pick. If you don't play it close to the line but safe enough, you're going to get caged, you're going to have your flash just blown very, very easily. Already, DFM have such a punishing composition into what Sengoku have picked. Ahri's going to struggle into Veigar cage unless they're playing towards the limit and playing aggressively well. Viego is going to struggle being a low-range champion.
No.
Viego Veigar.
I know, I just realized, like, oh, no, right, okay.
Viego is going to struggle.
Oh, is that what happens when Viego steals Veigar?
No, WTF Viego. But Nara is also going to struggle being a shorter range dive-in champion. You are going to hate this as Sengoku's first 3. What have you got in your last remaining picks that can either force you to play through side lanes and remove the issue away from grouped up fights with Veigar Misfortune, or outrange maybe on a wider side lane, but on a wider team fight rather. So I don't know what they have as options. They've already committed towards half of an identity and think they're going to struggle.
So there's a couple options being thrown around by DFM for what they want to take into the now. There was a Mordekaiser hover, pretty nasty in the 1v1. Similar deals with Irelia, where you can absolutely shred people. Honestly, I don't mind the Akali here when you can start diving in with the Hecarim a little easier. Only thing is, it does mean you've now got 2 magic damage solo laners, so some easier itemization options. And there's still a room where that ends up with Veigar support.
I was about to say, is this actually going to be a Veigar solo lane? Because when you have the Misfortune, you know that you want to combo something with the Misfortune.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's an outside chance this is a Heart Veigar. There is a chance. Okay, we'll see if that comes in. No need to count eggs before they've hatched. However, into someone like the Renata Glask, who is someone who's very squishy but wants to play out quite brutal laning phases. I think if you're gonna...
Okay.
I think this is actually now a viable flex. I think you can have another counter pick into the Ahri if you want. You can pick the LeBlanc again if you want. Of course, there is also still the cat. They have all the choices they want. They're going towards the Zilean.
Yes.
That's fine. That's actually, again, could also be a Zilean mid. I doubt it. It's probably going to be that Zilean support. But still, interesting and deadly flex potential in the last round. I appreciate the position which DFM put themselves into.
So we've got double revive supports between a bailout and a chrono shift. We've got these now, like, relatively interesting draft here from DFM. It's another one of those interesting flex where, honestly, if DFM get to sit up in a space and throw bombs and cages, and then you get Hecarim ulti into a Kali ulti with a Misfortune ult over the top, if you're all stunned in place by a cage, that wombo combo is horrifying. On the other side, it's a little bit more standard from the side of Sengoku. Once on Viego, it's always a terror. Jet on the Ari, you saw he got the solo kill. If you can start getting some initial picks and then some resets, but because you have got the reset combo between the Viego and the Ari. Anybody who saw T1 series yesterday, they won.
It is a very strong skirmish combo.
You could do some horrifying things where if you do get from one reset, suddenly things can get rolling against you. Of course, that's not as easy as you'd like because things like the Zillion can prevent soul pickups, which can make things a little bit tricky. But I feel like there's pretty good answers in every lane right now for DFM. You said the Misfortunes of Zaya is a bit nasty for the Zaya. Akali into Nara is something that Ebby has pulled out a few times before. And yes, you can kind of trade into the Shroud if you're playing the boomerangs, right? But it's not that easy. You've got a lot of area control with the Veigar, and that makes things quite tricky, honestly, for Sengoku.
However, I think as we get into game, we're going to look towards bot side. We know that Paz actually, just as and actually this is for me is more about Sengoku as an identity of a team. Paz wants to nullify lane. Once will be a bit of a firecracker. He'll do some stuff in the early game, but most of the time, he's looking to set up bot lane. And if Honey and if NT don't have a good laning phase in a 2v2, which I think they're really going to struggle in, I think Sengoku are going to have a lot of problems. Again, I think Sengoku need to tip the scales early on, because if you're sat there getting 90% slowed by the Zillion into a bullet time, both of these bot laners from Sengoku are going to shred. I don't think they can stand and fight a 2v2.
A couple things to call out here, of course, is the Akali with the Ignite, not the Flash. It's a pretty standard thing for top lane when Akali was pretty more common, say, last MSI, when Ebby was really
also
spamming
playing
it.
that top lane, yes.
Indeed, he did. He used to play into the likes of Khan and did quite well with that kind of ability. Alongside the Urgot, of course, we got a number of solo kills there against the Korean first seed at that time. Of course, slightly different meta, slightly different stats on the champions as they stand. Everything else feels relatively standard. Is the Spellbug for Veigar, but again, that's not exactly a surprise. And dematerializes in that lane as well to try and help out some of that control.
Well, particularly when Veigar is often about how quickly can you one-tap the back minions with your Q to start stacking earlier to actually get some priority, because Veigar does not get priority until very, very late for a mid laner, right? You need to get to level 6, 7, well, level 7, 8, when you get like 3 or 4 points into your Q to really start having the ability to take things out. I actually really like, by the way, the 2 games now. Yohong's taken bone plating into Ari to trade more effectively level 1, where Ari's electrocute W trades get really, really nasty. You can see that. That would actually be a third of the HP, not a fifth of it, if you hadn't taken that rune. It just allows you to play a little bit more close to the limit on waves 2 and 3.
Blitzcrank sound there, feeding us some numbers. Last game as well, you saw the AI power spike, and it was all DFM favored that time as well. It feels like it's this way again. See, of course, how it plays out in game. Stats really can very much lie. As this combo between the make it rain into the bombs, which is so much easier to land afterwards. I'm already seeing it right now. That's just horrifying.
The huge point and click slow.
Yeah.
Rewind it to get it twice onto both members.
Yeah, you can see the combos there, pretty nasty. Of course, right now, though, at least before some levels come in, it is Sengoku who do have the lane shove right now. So could be some shenanigans that Sengoku get out early, especially with both junglers pathing towards this bot side. Turnaround damage, though, some of these bombs getting a little bit nasty.
This is the thing. All it takes later on is, doesn't matter if you're 100% HP, double bomb or a slow lands into the full combo between the two of these, and it's lights out at that point. However, we're not at that point yet. Sengoku actually have 3 pushing lanes, and they have an aggressive jungler. There is a chance for them to run over the early game. Use their jungler as a wrecking ball. But that's not something the LJL does as a region. If I'm gonna I'm not blind. I love this region. I've had some chance to craft some other regions. Even something like the LEC is not really that active early on unless your name is someone like Fnatic. That's one of the few that can go towards it. But this is not a region which particularly plays around early game. And we already talked about how that is going to affect this bot lane matchup.
Oh yeah, and you can see some of the numbers here as we've got a little bit of a blue invade going on, as well as Wants is trying to ward Steel off away from his blue buff with the lane shove they have down bot lane. I'm glad that we are seeing a little bit more proactivity from Honey and Enti with this lane priority. It does mean that Steel is going to have to leave that blue buff for the Wolves, or at least the Viego at this point. He'll go towards his topside Scuttle Crab and deal with that instead. But Udapon, first in the KDA versus Honey, who's that second. You can see the golden damage percentage is pretty high, but not perfectly high, because honestly, both of these teams have got other carries to play around. They don't have to be funneled quite as much. They don't have to do quite as much work. But even so,
those percentages lie a little bit because the raw numbers are still bloody good in terms of the amount of gold, the amount of damage they're doing.
Well, I mean, halfway through last year, we realized that we were a Jinx Aphelios region. Guess what? Everyone started playing at the end of that season. We got there a little early. We had the carries who were already going towards that start. It's one of the few times I really felt like the LJL was ahead of the world meta. Sometimes we're a little slow to pick that up. Sometimes we
Jet.
don't really do that.
In a spot of bother. He's going to be able to get out with the
right.
W there. I
He's
thought for a
okay.
second Steel could get behind, but won't pop the ghost.
Sam, cool your jets. Calm down. Not one to get excited about right now. And on some more important things.
I mean, as I get memed on there with horrific puns.
I mean, it's still just looking for it's a time wasting gank, right? Or like it's an overlap where you've got like one camp up. You're not really missing that much.
Paz.
And,
he's
Paz.
dead. He's actually has got to burn the flash, but not quite enough for another 5-point strike. But still, flash blown. That will force the teleport out. The Ignite is on a significantly lower cooldown, I might add.
And how often have we seen Ebby do this over the years? He has so often just found that one trade to completely completely turn the tune of a lane. You're sat there and just thinking, oh my gosh, Ebby's just taking control again. This is going to be a bit of an awkward one. The question is, what can you do with this? Is this going to lead to an XP advantage? Does that mean that Ebby can start bullying out this lane even more? Does that mean DFM can take control of topside? Lots of follow-on effects can happen from opportunistic trades like that.
So I call out this here as well, because Unipon has gone for the Comet on the Misfortune. He's also gone for an early tier, so the damage isn't actually that high right now, but this is suggesting a lethality build, which into this comp I don't hate, especially considering you've got the double AP elsewhere.
He's always been a huge lethality MF player.
Oh, yeah.
He played it internationally last year, and
Those ults hurt.
And remember that game that we sadly lost against 100
so
Thieves? That was a Misfortune game where he was one-shotting AD carries. You know, he's had some international tenure on this pick too. Of course, this is only the Juggernaut match. However, we'd the winning this series.
It's
remember,
the same caliber. Look at the number. Look at these
that's
players.
the one. I mean, I am looking at these players and I'm looking at the minimap and I'm seeing a lot of people going towards the bot side jungle. See if Sengoku will look to pull the trigger there. But DFM, again, as much as we've talked a lot about them, Sengoku are looking to force DFM into a loss in a Juggernaut match for the third time, I want to say. They've lost 2 before this, one to Rascal Jester, one to Sengoku.
Yeah.
And then even if that does happen, you still gotta go to the finals and win finals to go internationally. The job's not done, not even close to it.
Okay, Yaharong will not get hit by the Spectrum Boy. Now, if I need to turn it around, my days, that's a lot of damage. Ignite, is it going to be quite enough? I don't think so with the pot running, but that is 43 HP that
was with the W just about missing 2. Once we said, hey, pushing lanes, early aggressive jungler. Maybe you can don't do that. You can do things in the early game, maybe not that.
Yeah, and again, this is the danger, right? It's like, you've got a slightly more defensive option. You really want to hit level 6 for the Misfortune and stuff, as Jet might now be an attempt. That's a really good cage. They don't quite have the damage. That's a good charm turnaround. A little more found aside from a decent chunk. It might force a reset away from Jet, though, who's going to go towards this blue buff, and I wonder whether that will leave Steel with an opportunity to think about something like that. Dragon,
has
but
no ult. He has no mega.
Oh, he's been
has no flash. And again, you know that. Let's just revisit this again because it's good to kind of put down a thread and then pick it up later. Ebby took that great trade. Now has an XP advantage. Now gets to force Paz off the wave even more. This is how Ebby takes over games.
Absolutely, and remember, he's on over 1 solo kill a game, and he got very close already right now, and that ability to just zone people off, you can see he's going towards the Rift Maker, which makes a lot of sense when he's going to be side laning, looking for those continual trades. It is very concerning, I think, for Sengoku right now that, yes, Paz is doing okay, but it is a tricky state right now where with this Ignite, the Ignite up, rather, the Flash down. There we go, I'll get my Summoner spells the right way around. There is some serious kill threat, and the moment Steel hits level 6, which he's just done, by the by, some of these lanes become very much kill opportunities, assuming a good ultimate from a Hecarim or a good setup from the likes of Harp or Yaharon.
Well, the game is sadly not just about laning phase though for DFM, although they're pretty happy playing outside of that, but they might want to start playing outside of that for a Herald. Thing is, Jet saw Yaharong backing just before this, went back for an item completion, means that Veigar is not in position to contest with this Herald. It's going to go down.
It is down now. Once needs to get out, but Steel's going to try and come in and look for an ultimate anyway. They're going to try and play this one out. Is there a Heartbreaker? There is not quite enough damage to ignite, but a big ultimate from the gods! Misfortune! It's just destroys them all! Unipon, that was the most disgusting flash ult I think I have seen in a long,
long time. I am speechless.
I mean, chance upon just flashes over the wall into 4 people, flashes into the whole enemy team, and for the longest time, again, need we remind you, need we pile on the stories and the narratives, Utapon has been playing the facilitating role. Occasionally he's been called on to carry, but this split, he comes in and makes it... Boo! He makes it his own personal mission to say that he is still the best AD carry in this region. Flashed it in the 5, gets the ult across the entire team of Sengoku. Send that one to Reddit.
Oh, I don't, that's... You know, I enjoy watching Utapon when he's on form, and for whatever reason, against Sengoku this split again, he has been just phenomenal. And that is a lot of gold that's now onto DFM. Some of these lanes were looking okay, honestly, for Sengoku. You could see Jet with the range advantage, with a little bit of pressure coming in, was doing pretty well into this Veigar, which is not unsurprising necessarily, but doing pretty well with that, just with that kind of Orbit Deception, the ability to dance around and avoid those cages. Great for him, but suddenly you've got 3 kills. First Blood's gone to Utapon. You've got 3 assists onto this Hecarim. You've got a kill onto the Akali. You've got a kill onto this Veigar, who was caught on that reset a little bit, and that is now a very scary early game to deal with. Utapon's gone back and picked up his ever so popular first pick option onto his sort of like lethality AD cards. I believe that's
No, that's actually a Ghost Blade.
Wait, Ghost Blade. I thought it was going to be an Umbral Glaive, but it wasn't. It's the Ghost Blade. I saw it, I was like, wait, I'm wrong.
For those of you again that are kind of less in tune with some of the more niche things we talk about here. What less niche thing is ganking bot lane over and over when you've got a hyper carry there. But still, Utapon loves picking up stuff like the Umbral Glaive, loves picking up kills in the bot lane too.
Gonna just die. There you go. Devastating charge is just enough, and fantastic if they get the summoner out as well. And Honey dies the first time this game.
It's so I'm not gonna say generic. It's just it's another day at the office. It's easy. It's rudimentary. Just to sit there, it's like, okay, this is. Honey had no way to outplay that. Flashes out, loses that one, and carries of Jet and of Honey, and you cannot play around that. How do you sit under turret? And how do you get the gold onto these carries to actually fight effectively later into the game? Because DFM, we talked about LJL, again, not being an early game region, they don't care. They just outmuscle you, and even though it's not big, sweeping early game rotations, they can still just outplay you and force you down into the dirt.
Yes, they can, and now with this combo online, they've got themselves the lethality to back up, the early troughs of the tiers. This team is very much online, but I now need to turn my eyes over to Sengoku, who are down a hefty amount of gold, but they did get the Herald, which actually they didn't get to even get the eye. I'm not actually sure. Maybe they've summoned it somewhere and I've just missed it. I think it must have gone down in mid by the looks of it, off screen.
We were still reeling from the... Oh, that's a very fast misfortune.
When she throws on the W, the strut, she can...
And then
she
also
can walk with the best of them.
Ghost Blade, and then also the Zillion ult. This is actually a thing, of course, which got nerfed about Misfortune way back in the past, where...
It was super strong.
You could get to rotate between plays so quickly. Yeah, now chuck a Zillion on top of that. That is so quick to get to the play.
Honestly, that was when you were seeing a little bit more crit Misfortune, when she didn't have the Ghost Blade. And honestly, Ghost Blade plus the W is probably just as fast as she was before the nerf, if not even quicker. You could probably just like time one then the other and be out on the map in a rapid turn of events, and that can make things a bit tricky. And with DFM in control of the map already, those rotations, the time you have to respond to them is going to be so much slower. And Honey's being forced away from this tower again. That's a second plate in bot side, and they're feeling very happy right now at DFM, and I need to see what Sengoku can do with some of their playmaking opportunities they do have, and some of the scaling opportunities they do have as well.
Oh, no!
Gets Misfortune ultimate. It'll be a decent pull back with the handshake. It'll be a cleansing trade from Utapon, but they're going to trade back onto NT. He takes a massive hit.
Even though you're trading for the cleanse, you trade up in summoners, you've lost so much HP, you probably can't really fight around bot side for the next minute. You've got Mountain Dragon live too. And again, DFM, they're making plays on the right tempo, and they're finding the correct members to do it on.
Amazing stuff. We're out the cage, and then look for the ultimate, but where is once? Not around. So actually, they don't even burn the ultimate. They just take a trunk and try and force out some spells from the side of Jet. Won't quite get it, but they'll force him off for this wave a little bit more. And what have you got for me? I see you looking at something.
No, and again, it's just a continuation of the fact of, look, we saw what happened with Evie earlier, taking one good trade, finding ways to force Paz to play back and to play less aggressively on the top side earlier. They do the same bot, they do the same twice in a row.
One's in trouble. So much damage, he's dead. NT tried to flash for the bailout, couldn't get in range. The only thing he's being bailed out of is the ship that is sinking.
Sengoku Gaming are being put to the sword again this game.
The ship's going down, but the train's leaving the station. All aboard the Detonation FocusMe hype train. We thought that they were in a rebuild year this year. They lost a couple of members, but if they're rebuilding, the only thing I can think that they're building right now is a damn space elevator. This team looks incredibly scary. It is only the second game in this series. It is only the Juggernaut match, not even the finals. Rascal Jesters will want to have an extra word with them, potentially Burning Core or Sengoku if they make it back to that point. But DFM continually upping the ante of what it means to be a top-tier Japanese team.
And let's be real, yes, we're being quite DFM focused, but that's because Sengoku have looked a bit headless. They've been caught out by plays like this, and once just gets turned into dust.
Because they're being their head is being forcibly removed by Detonation FocusMe.
It is a guillotine. It is literally an execution.
Well, let them eat. Well, I'm not sure if there's any cake left on this rift at this point. I think DFM have snatched all that up for themselves, and they haven't even had a death to their name in this game. They are clean across the board. They've lost some plates, but they haven't lost a tower. Remember, this is actually almost on track for a perfect game were it not for that earlier Herald.
That's pretty impressive. And now Ebby gonna continue going forwards, gets the flash out of Paz again. This guy just knows his mechanics on the Akali. Something he picked up last year. He's going to pick it up again. He's been flexing his mechanical muscles, his champion pool muscles this year, a lot more than we've seen over the last few years of play from this LJL GOAT top laner. But now the second Herald has spawned. Maybe Sengoku Gaming can finally find an angle, finally find a way to get back into this game.
But they can't find a way into the river at this point, because if you're fighting around this Herald, you see that choke point, which that 5-man ultimate came down in before. Well, yeah, try walking through that again. It ain't going to go any better for you.
There's some lethality in his infantry.
Has a lot more lethality. And look at this, Honey gets tagged by one slow. You pop all your Musu bonuses, and Honey just cannot stand and fight. This Zyra is meant to be someone that can actually sit and have people dive into them. What happens if they're still a screen away? What happens at that point? You don't actually have an ability to lock them down. And this is a continuation of the first game of Honey not being able to impact the game. Jet has had fine laning phases. That's one of the star carries for this team. Honey has been unable to impact things though, and DFM are just taking complete control of this.
It's a good cage. The Event Horizon will get a chunk out on once. Yaharong manages to get his way away from potential danger. Everfrost onto the wave into the Make It Rain means that Jet actually needs to back out. That wave just disappears so quickly at this point. They'll just take that one to the bank and back away. They've got the Herald, they prevent the mid push, and Nebby just about misses the Shuriken flip there. That had landed, you can see definitely an option to try and get in onto that Gnar. All the while though, Honey has been left to try and hold mid, and yes, it is the lethality Zai who has got a little bit more range to play around because you've got more damage out of those double daggers, but it's just not the same. And the problem is, the zone you have to walk into to start throwing that Q is the zone that is the Make It Rain, that is the double bombs, that is the Event Horizon.
And if you get tagged by one slow, you're going to get walked up into an auto-attack reset from the MF, and that's half your HP at least.
She's got cleanse, so even if you get the stun, she can just remove it and keep walking at you. You don't have the same trade pattern you want.
I'll remind you, it's a root, Sam. So
even if
you get, you're right. But what I mean is, even if you get the root, there's a chance another auto attack comes down. And that's still kind of terrifying.
What I was saying is that potentially is a world where you root and get to walk away because the misfortune could follow. That is less easy now, especially with the comment stuff.
I don't think you're walking away because at that kind of speed, I mean, it's a limp, it's an amble, it's a quick trip back towards the grey screen mod. Once finds himself a scuttle, and he's lucky enough to get away with that. But while all this is happening, again, if you are going to characterize DFM as a team in this game and the last couple of games, is that they are outplaying so many micro situations that the macro can't really function from the other teams in the LJL. Reminder, this is a first versus second team matchup in the Juggernaut match. Sengoku, they ended out beating out the head-to-head on Rascal Jester, our other top team. And while DFM lost 2 of their games to Rascal Jester, this is another one of our real top echelon. But Sengoku are looking like a distant second to DFM in the first couple of games. They need to seriously start assessing what they're going to do coming into the rest of the games of this series, because while this game isn't over yet, it's about as good as about as close as you can say at the 18-minute mark.
It's over 5,000 gold. It's into honestly a bit of a comp discrepancy with the way you have to play around these objectives. It gets pretty damn scary. You've got a Drake spawning in 50 seconds. I need to see whether Sengoku were willing to fight for it, because otherwise I think it's going to get very dire very quickly here. That's the Eclipse in for the misfortune just in time, and You've got so much speed to get down there. It's, I mean, what do you do? There's probably going to be a Muramana at some point in the future as well. It's just not necessary right now. And
it's the early spikes. It's the very early spikes, right? You know, MF has always worked on just raw stats. You have to start off with that tier. That's fine. But in DFM, if they had early humps in that early rather dips, I expect rather, in their itemization, they've more than overcome it by this point.
The road is now very smooth. The sailing is smooth. NT, though, is in a lot of trouble. Gets charged back, but not quite over the wall because the wall was in the way. So his devastating charge is in the point. Bit of a point there. Steel gets chunked out. That's not a bad chunk, but of course he's still got a healing pot, and I don't think NT has anywhere near as many ways to heal that up, especially when Steel steals the honey fruit.
But now we have a serious problem for Sengoku to pile on top of everything else. Where you saw how many skill shots were thrown at Steel at that point. There is only one magic damage source on the enemy team, and it's Ari that's gone for Everfrost, Merc Treads, and then gone for the Banshee's Veil, or at least the components of it. Steel has only built itemization towards armor, towards physical damage, and does not care about your magic damage.
Okay, they get a charm, but I don't know how much that actually means. Takes a bit of a chunk out onto Steel. That is potentially good news, but now the Drake is starting up. Once has a Heartbreaker, has a Flash, could potentially come in, but it's going to be too little, too late, and they won't consider it. And that will be DFM burning a teleport in trade, and just taking the dragon like that. It's an Infernal Rift. And 2 dragons DFM's name.
Yeah, an Infernal Rift is definitely not one that you want to see as Sengoku, but it can help them in one sense. There are less choke points now. Yes. Walls have been removed a little bit from that map, makes it a little harder for DFM to set up and say, can we get them into a very small area where they're eating all the skill shots, and the Vhagar cage covers most of the area that they're walking through. Slight consolation, still behind in this game.
And lest I remind you, we had some predictions. We had a bit of a discussion. For everyone, in fairness, did give the edge to DFM, but we said maybe a 3-1. I did mention that there was this potential that DFM just turn up and pub stomp. That we have seen the upper ceiling of this team, and it is pretty damn high, arguably higher than it was last season. We had hopes for Sengoku. We had hopes, still have hopes, for Rascal Jester as teams that might offer us some competition. And we have yet to see, honestly, from Sengoku, the level required to challenge DFM right now, who look on another level, underline it a few times, and elevate it and stick it on a pedestal somewhere on Mount Olympus, because this is gods versus men right now.
Well, maybe we can hire SpaceX or something to, like, bring it to the top of the space elevator that they're building right here. Detonation FocusMe. They're looking to go, again, push up that extra ceiling of the LJL and say, look, we got ourselves a world group stage last year. Let's see if we can make that a continual streak, become a threat, become a team to be feared.
Speaking of fear, there's an onslaught is Shadow, and NT wants to left fear. Now Yahong's walking forward, trying to get a lot of damage down onto NT, who does throw down the hostile takeover. Everfrost comes down into a dark matter, the bailout's down, but he will just burn out. He is dead to rights. Jet has got the Banshee's Veil now, though, at least, so won't get picked off on the side as well, but that is a pick onto the support. Steel's still so fast.
It's Ebby.
With a rewind, there is Ebby. He could think about going in, but it's just going to be a devastating charge back towards the tower. Can Jet find anything at the back end of this? No. There's the cage. Banshee's Veil popped. That's all she wrote, but now this jungle is all DFM. Honey takes a bit of a chunk. Steel gets chunked in trade, but I don't think that's that big a deal. 3-0-1 now on the Vhagar.
But what's happening is that DFM don't mind taking a couple of chunks down because they can just head back into their own jungle camps, regen up, and it's just forcing Sengoku to play back. Ebby gets to encroach in the enemy jungle. If it's not Ebby, it's someone like Harp going on a bit of a mission to go and put some double bombs down into the equation too. Sengoku don't have a safe area of the map to play around. They're getting pushed in all lanes. They're losing a lot of their individual matchups, and they don't have any mode to play through besides a maybe a slight overextension from DFM. And even with that, you've got a zillion ult to worry about. Seriously, shut out, lights out for DFM.
Okay, out of the red buff and all the Krugs, Pav's got a small Krug. Every other one went to Ebby, including the red buff. That is, there's a little bit of tilt, there's a little bit of stat discrepancy, there's a little bit of ego checking there, but that is the kind of discrepancy we're seeing. It's the micro checks, it's the map checks, it's the comp checks, and honestly, it feels like DFM has been checking all of those in their favor.
They have, and there are some things, you know, in terms of the development of this team, things I want to see from DFM. I want to see if they can do this without a Hecarim. I think that's going to be a very important thing, because the Hecarim in the first 2 games has been absurd from Steel.
Maybe you could do it with stuff like the Akali, though.
Oh, gonna get a lot of damage. So can't quite get the kill. Will now be into the Twilight Strike, but gets the Ignite kill anyway. That's in 1v4, by the by. Make it 1v5. Ebby's still going. He's gonna try and get out of this. Might finally get traded out. Surely he does. That's now the 1-for-1. But now the rest of Sengoku burns so much to pick off Ebby. What happens here is Honey throws down the Feather Storm. Now they need to try and escape.
Oh, it's the ult!
Gets a massive ult. He shadows into the cage, into the bullet. Time was far too short. 3-for-1. Ebby gets the 1v5 solo kill. The rest of DFM avenge his death in trade.
And they avenge it in such style. This is such an exciting team to watch. And you know, on broadcast, you have to play it a bit even. You have to say, you know what, you got to play both sides of the story because there are two teams in this game. But when you watch DFM play like this, when you watch Ebby play like this, it's so hard to not enjoy what they do. Ebby, for years, has been the solo kill king of the LJL, has the Ignite, and legitimately goes 1v5 to get a solo kill. Gets a huge chunk and a couple of ults and summoners at the end of this trade too. And while all this is happening, DFM go, well, okay then, I guess we'll come to help. This is the combo they have been looking for most of this game, and it is an absolute beauty.
Cage comes down, they're feared into the walls, run for the hills, tune up Iron Maiden, you got a bounty, but it comes in trade for your whole damn roster. 2 dead already, and Unipon picks up his third of the game, with the jungler and support dead, it's straight over to Baron and DFM. It is exquisite stuff from the best team in the LJL.
Yes, and again, the winner here goes on towards the LJL finals. Yet another one for DFM. They have not failed to reach that stage of a competition, unless you count the very first split in 2014 winter, which was a little bit of an odd one. But DFM are sat here now, again, showing that they are, again, the greatest Japanese League of Legends org of all time. And so many of those members have stayed with them throughout.
And it's the variety in play, it's the variety in champions, it's just the style in which they do it. Ebby's here with a rewind here to make it go in. They'll get a Mega Nora into the wall, it's a fairly decent chunk. He's got a revive though. They might finally die here. Will ult out, perfectly execute, bow back in. Nearly gets Jet as well, but it's not quite enough, and this time they go too deep.
It's a little too far, but still on the other side. DFM get the Baron. So it's a shutdown. Actually, I'm not sure if it was a shutdown.
It wasn't.
Death came in through that, but DFM, they lose one of their Baron buffs. They take away the Xayah ult, though, importantly. And what can you do without that? Because you can see the threat which DFM have still onto the Xayah, but still, I mean, it's not quite as clean maybe as DFM would have liked it to be. They went a little too deep. And again, this is the other side of DFM occasionally. If not, their brains just checked out for a minute or two and they go, yeah, I could probably outplay that. And maybe they go a little bit too far, especially against your Rascal Justice, especially against your Sengoku. They do have the ability to punish you should you leave them the opportunity. But it's not a big enough of an opportunity to really come back in this game. Still 8k down in the dumpster, still losing
Keeping away from that blast gun. Actually throw Steel over the wall. He's going to get narded for the wall, but it's a big misfortune on the trade. Flash over from Unibody. He's done that whole damn game. Can't quite secure the kills, though, as yet. It'll force 3 members of Sengoku out, though, at sub 1000 HP. Reminder now that Ebby's back on the pitch. They've still got a minute and a half of this Baron buff, but it has been slightly stymied because some of these plays haven't worked out quite in their favor. But now with the members backing, some of these towers are about to crack.
But this is the problem, right? I mean, DFM, they went for... I mean, we'll see if it ends up becoming a problem.
Jet! Oh, Lord! I'm sorry you had to witness that, ladies, gentlemen, anyone of any other persuasion. I'm fairly certain we saw the kind of murder that gets, you know, an R rating on most late night TV shows. Once it's about to find the same fate, it feels like another one comes down. It's nuclear explosions across the rift.
And, I mean, at this point, you're going to have a Fallout heading towards the base, drifting slower and slower towards it. A minute left of the Baron. Utapon with the ultimate coming back up. DFM, they are looking to absolutely crush through Sengoku in Game 2.
It turns out bullet time is about 0.1 seconds, because it doesn't need to be for any longer. It's supposed to be slow motion. He's 1v3. He's going to keep going. Remember, he's still got himself the likes of a revive from a chrono shift. Steel blows up the Gnar, and that is now 3. Wemba's dead. Jet respawns, but he's got to try and defend his base against this kind of onslaught. Zebby was looking for it there.
Yeah, I think the observers maybe slightly baited us in, as we say, like, oh, that's a very quick camera shift as he caught someone. Just caught the back end of some of those minions on the very end of that perfect execution. But DFM, again, making it look stylish. maybe not the cleanest end to the game, but still, I love the flexibility this team has.
Oh.
So often we talk about Ebby, so often
Sweeper
we
ran
talk
out.
about Steel, and a lot of the time, Utapon has been left to the second or third part of the conversation about DFM. But this split, above all the others in the last few years, I'd say he's really one of the big focal point of this team in a lot of ways. Now, Ebby is having the split of his life in a lot of ways too. I mean, I think the last time I saw him in this kind of form, besides International, which is a bit of a different package for him, was Spring 2020. It's been a little while since he's been manhandling games to this extent, but Utapon has been playing whatever his team needs, and he's been picking up the carry role more and more often, putting his hand up and being counted for.
The only member to have died this game is Ebby, who traded 1 for 1 in a 1v5, and then nearly did the same in the bot lane. And I feel like that's an okay trade that DFM are willing to take, because the rest of this team right now are deathless at least 3 items, 4 right now for Utapon. Although I take that back, actually, it's not quite there for Steel, who's got himself some winged winged plates, whatever it's called.
Woe is me, my hack room doesn't quite have
3
the
items.
luxury
oh,
items.
No,
Yeah.
indeed, exactly. And at this point, it's so difficult. Steel gets sped up with the Shirelias, does get rooted in place, but it just doesn't take that much damage. The cage comes down, it'll force people away from this tower. They get a decent chunk onto Harp, but none of these are that important members, unfortunately.
And you look at the Xayah with 3 items, you think, actually, that's maybe something that can punish DFM if they go too deep, but it's still so difficult.
There's Ebby, does get chunked pretty heavily there. The hostile taker comes through, and that's actually a really good handshake. They'll get the chrono shift out as well. They might force them away from taking that inhibitor turret. They'll throw down the event horizon, and there's no teleports coming through. 15 seconds until the infernal Drake comes up. Every inhibitor is down.
Okay, well, actually, no, the bot lane inhibitor just survived.
Sorry, yes, it
So
did.
that's what they were just pushing forward for. But either way, I mean, DFM going to get themselves onto Soul Point. It's a bit of a late one. Dragons haven't really been the most important thing in this game. DFM getting so much just real financial gain just from killing people. Just running over the enemy team, getting a lot of gold into pocket, focusing on the heralds, blah, blah, blah. But it does mean that they don't have a potential game-ending soul at this point. The gold lead will probably replace that, however. DFM, I think, in the next minute, going to take Baron, look for that death push.
Oh, yes, they will. Force of Nature now, complete haircut. There's that luxury 3rd item. And they are in position with a stopwatch now on Utapon as well, alongside a Chrono Shift, alongside a Cleanse. It'll be up in about 3 seconds. You can see it on the UI on the right of your screen. It'll be up very shortly, at least, and very difficult to kill now. There's a Zhonya's on Veigar, and there's a Zhonya's on Akali.
Okay, but you know what's actually even more fun? Harp's actually gone for the support item, which you get post-level post-level 12 or whatever it is. Got the extra ward stone, effectively. I really appreciate that. A little bit of extra vision, doing their due diligence, and with that's an item I've always wanted to see a bit more of.
I think with the amount of gold in inventory right now, it makes a lot of sense because you don't need to buy anything else right now. That vision control is exactly what is winning you this game, especially with a Baron coming up. That ability to control things as Ebby's
I think the fights are winning them the game.
And Steel goes in with an onslaught of shadows, will force Paz straight back into the cage. Ebby goes over, secures that one. Maybe he can look for a little bit more. Still has perfect execution to his name. Flash forward from Harp to get the Roop onto NT. Now he's getting charged back. May need to bail himself out. It's a decent use of the hostile taker.
Ebby!
Not enough, but Ebby goes forward. Primordial burst secures Jet. It is once alone against them all. He'll heartbreak over, but it's a bullet time that he finds to the face, and he is shredded, looking more like Swiss cheese than a human being. Nexus towers have fallen. DFM, it's another absolute whitewash. 2-0 in the series.
Viego shot through the heart and through the back by Utapon. DFM really not letting up in game 2. Now, they still got to close it out. And again, this is the Juggernaut match. This is just a ticket to finals. And then the finals is your actual golden ticket to go even further beyond, to continue raising that torch for the LJL as a region, continue on this string of international performances where we've been so blessed to have, I suppose, to have this real moment in the sun for this region. But you can see, once again, DFM seriously upping the level of what it means to be a top team in a minor region.
And again, these are statement games because we said, oh no, they've lost a couple games. Oh, these teams are quite close to them. They are trying to tell us here that no, they're not. That we are just too damn good. And certainly right now, I'm beginning to believe them, I think. 2-0 up in the series. One more to make this a 3-0 absolute knockout. Sengoku Gaming need to show us something more or it'll be done for them and down to the lower bracket. Gonna cut our way to a quick break and then the analyst will be there to break down that very DFM-sided game.
Sengoku rule.
I've used the phrase, gentlemen, of Domination Nation to really describe Detonation FocusMe before. Well, at least I predicted them to win, because I feel like this series is going to be rather one-sided now. And well, to really get into this, it feels like we do need to just kind of begin with the first clip, because if that's possible to bring up on screen, this felt one-sided, and Crow, run me through how this went so badly, because this looks pretty even. But 9 minutes in, this was good.
Man. Yeah, no, we were really like, okay, cool, look at that, Sengoku doing those early rotations and getting Herald like we thought. But then Utapon, the most Chad MF play, says, oh, that's a nice wall. Would be ashamed if I flash ulted over it, and just gets over, picks up that triple kill, and we're literally like, okay, all right, this, because it was a lot of nothing in these early 10 minutes, and like immediately, literally at the 9-minute mark, we get a first blood that turns into a triple kill going over DFM, and it was just, we were criticizing the slow nature, the scale up nature of the composition that DFM had, and they're just like, all right, cool, time to turn it on, and they definitely turned on the burner.
Yeah, absolutely they did. If we can come back to us, yeah, thank you. That was just kind of the catalyst dodge, wasn't it, for the side of DFM? Because Sengoku held off for 9 minutes.
It struck me as LCK syndrome. It was, we know how much emphasis Detonation FocusMe puts on the first Herald. We just have to have our ducks in a row. We have to be first to rotate. We have to have first access, and we'll take it away. And Sengoku felt really good about themselves because, oh, they're scaling. They don't have their damage yet. But what DFM had in spades all throughout the game was these layering zone control capabilities. We saw so many times Baby Cage goes down. Hecarim manhandles you into the wall of that cage. You're stunned up. Bullet time over the top. I mean, the way this comp fit together from Detonation FocusMe, it was like an Exodia coming together. Just how synergistic everything was, and how Sengoku had no tools to deal with it, really.
I mean, talking about dealing with tools, I mean, Ebby was an absolute monster, and he got the solo bolo. I mean, look at this, Mr. Chris Edgeworth with the ready for it with the graphic for the Ebby solo kill. I absolutely adore it. But talking about that cage that you just set us up, Crow, that's what happens right here.
Like, oh my god, the wombo combo just it's so crazy, you know? I hadn't even thought of that in the composition. Like, okay, cool, yeah. All right, Event Horizon really good at keeping people away. Oh wait, they can bullet time off of this, and it's you see it's 23 minutes of the game at this point. DFM are already just like in the driver's seat going on. They've lapped them twice at this point, and Evie is just like, all right, cool. Let me just add some stuff for the highlight reel, I suppose. As they just absolutely decimate Sengoku, and like they're looking for an answer back, and by this point, there really isn't one for Sengoku to have, as DFM just on every single level dismantled them.
Right, and that was kind of the moment, even though there was about a 13-minute difference between those first two clips that we had there, it really didn't change. The pacing of the game was just going in Detonation FocusMe's way. The gold lead for those two teams was vastly different, but I mean, Dodge, this was the end of the game.
Yeah, it's more of the same, really. It's what's the definition of insanity, Swan? Is it doing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
But expecting different results. I mean,
Yeah.
the power of this DFM comp felt sort of tailor-made to deal with the biggest threat that Sengoku has, right? And that's they've been able to consistently play through Honey as a carry, but you don't have enough tools here to peel through all of this zone control. You can get CC'd a million ways from Sunday. You can pop that Featherstorm. You can get a bailout to get a second life, but at this point, it's just completely, dominated all through the game by Detonation FocusMe, and it's not as violent or as explosive as we saw in Game 1. It was more of the slow choke out where it kind of felt like, Sengoku was just slowly marching towards the Hangman's noose. They saw their destiny coming up to meet them, but there was nothing they could do about it.
I love how you put that, Dodge. So we've seen them get choked. We've seen them choke out Sengoku. We've seen them bash them down and said, no, this is how it's gonna be in Game 1. Crow, how are they gonna do game number 3? Because you've predicted the 3-0.
Honestly, it's up in the air. They can literally do what they want, however they want, as you have seen. Like, they can do the quick and easy, just make it painless, make it quick. They can do the drag them into deep water and completely exhaust them and pull them out.
No. DFM haven't allowed Tom Kench to go through the pick and ban phase yet, mate. Can't drag him down yet.
You got me there. You got me there. But they're just capitalizing on all the mistakes that Sengoku have made. They're not even allowing them to, have a sliver of a window of a chance to burst it open and get something coming back. And it starts in the draft when you look at it. So
no. Crow, I'm going to stop you there because we're going to go to a short break.
Yes.
But when we come back, we'll start looking forward over to game number 3 with the pick and ban phase, because I know your point. I know where you want to go, mate. Hold it.
There we go.
Just for a short moment. But when we
Push
come
that on
back
down.
after this short break, we'll go straight into pick and ban phase and, ladies and gentlemen, get you prepared for game number 3. Don't go anywhere.